When you hear the word drone, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For pretty much all of us, it's something buzzing around in the sky. But what if I told you that's just the tiniest tip of the iceberg? Today, we're going to dive into the huge and often totally unseen world of uncrewed systems. And you might be surprised to find out they're just as common underwater and on the ground as they are in the air. Okay, so let's lock in that image right now. Seriously, when I say the word drone, what do you see in your mind's eye?
I'm willing to bet it's a quadcopter, right? Something buzzing through the air. That's the picture we all have from movies, the news, maybe even from the park down the street. And look, you're not wrong, but you're not seeing the whole picture either.
Because the world of drones is so much bigger than that. What if the most important drones out there aren't flying at all? What if they're exploring the deepest parts of the ocean, securing borders on the ground, or sailing across the high seas for weeks at a time? This right here is the key. This is where we need to rewire our thinking. A drone isn't defined by where it operates, air, land, or sea. It's defined by one simple, game-changing idea. There's no human pilot on board. That's it. That's the only rule. If it flies, drives, or dives, and nobody's inside it, well, it's an uncrewed system. So with that new, much bigger definition in mind, let's stop just saying drones and start talking about the whole category of uncrewed systems. Let's get to the core of it. Why do we even build these things in the first place? It really all boils down to three main reasons. First, to keep people out of harm's way. Send a machine into a dangerous spot instead of a person. Second, to just keep going and going and going. We're talking about operations that last for days or weeks or even months without getting tired. And finally, to go to places where it's either physically impossible for a person to be or just a really bad idea. And let's just bust a few common myths while we're at it. These are not just small toys. Some are literally the size of commercial airliners. They are definitely not always cheap. Some systems cost millions of dollars. And probably most importantly, this isn't some experimental future tech. This stuff is mature, it's operational, and it's already reshaping entire industries as we speak. So where are these systems making the biggest, yet often most invisible impact? Well, you might be surprised to hear it's not always in the air. Let's start on the ground and under the water, where these machines are literally going where we can't. Just think about the deep ocean for a second. The crushing pressure, the total darkness, it's an incredibly hostile place for a person. But for an underwater drone, it's just another day at the office. They are our eyes and our hands down there, inspecting critical things like internet cables, mapping the seabed in incredible detail, and carrying out really long, difficult search missions. And this really gets to the heart of it. An underwater drone isn't trying to beat a submarine in a race. Its superpower is access. It can get to places no person could ever survive, stay there for a long time, and bring back data that's impossible to get any other way. It's not about how fast it moves, it's about the fact that it can even be there at all. Now back on solid ground, these systems are taking on the jobs that are dangerous, dull, or just plain dirty. We're talking about tirelessly patrolling a massive airport perimeter, carefully dealing with a potential bomb, or just methodically moving packages in a giant warehouse, 24/7, without a single coffee break. So think about what's really being sold here. It's not just a robot that moves. No, it's safety for a soldier in a high-stakes situation. It's persistence for a logistics network that can't ever stop. And it's automation for jobs that are just too repetitive for a person. That is the real product. Now let's head out to the surface of the ocean. The game-changing advantage for these systems isn't speed or power, it's something much simpler: time. These uncrewed boats can stay on a mission for days, sometimes weeks on end, long after a human crew would have had to head back to port. This incredible endurance unlocks a whole new playbook. I mean, imagine a single boat patrolling a coastline for an entire month, or monitoring a busy shipping lane without ever needing a crew change. This ability to just be present, what the pros call time on station, that's their defining feature. Okay, now let's finally take to the skies, the domain we're all the most familiar with. But we're not just going to talk about your standard quadcopters. We're going to put these aerial systems into a much bigger context, from your own front door all the way to the very edge of space. When you think about logistics, flying drones almost never replace a big airplane. That's just not their job. The way to think about it is this. A huge cargo plane does the long-haul flight between cities. The drone then takes over for that final, critical step, what they call the last mile, to deliver a package with pinpoint precision. They extend the system. They don't replace it. But there's a whole other category of flying drone that's in a totally different league. These are high-altitude platforms, and they fly way, way above commercial air traffic, almost on the edge of space. And while a regular drone is worried about the last mile, these platforms are thinking about global coverage. They don't compete with other airplanes because they're designed for missions like being a communications tower in the sky, providing nonstop weather monitoring over an entire region, or conducting super detailed observation of the Earth. And because they can stay up there for weeks, even months at a time, they offer a kind of persistence that's almost impossible to get otherwise. Now, this is probably the most important thing to get about these systems. They're not competing with airlines. Their real competition is in orbit. You should think of them as pseudo-satellites, offering a lot of the same capabilities, but with the flexibility of being able to fly back to Earth. They fill this really powerful gap between the sky and space. Okay, we have gone from the depths of the ocean, across the land, over the sea, and up to the edge of space. So now let's pull the camera all the way back and see how all these different pieces fit together into one big, integrated family. So let's just lay it all out. What you're seeing here isn't a competition. It's a family of systems, and each member has its own unique superpower. Underwater drones give us access and data. Ground systems give us safety and automation. Surface vessels offer that incredible time on station. Aerial drones deliver precision, and those high-altitude platforms, they grant us endurance and coverage. Each one is a specialized tool for a specialized job. The really big takeaway here is that these systems are no longer just gadgets or novelties. From the bottom of the sea to the very edge of space, they are quietly weaving themselves into the very fabric of our global infrastructure. They are fundamentally changing how we see, connect with, and operate in our world. So, as this technology continues to become part of our lives, often in ways we don't even see, the question for us is no longer if it's going to change our world, but how. How will this hidden, growing infrastructure of uncrewed systems reshape the way you live, the way you work, and the way you connect? That's the question we're all going to be answering in the years ahead.